and welcome to round 7 of GPL. We are here today to watch the WEC class, the top class of this Super Formula race today. And today we are at Grand Valley Highway, yet another original Gran Turismo circuit, and another street track. Set here in the United States of America, in California, and we are going to see some beautiful scenery in the background as we are on some really high cliffs going over some really tall bridges where you can see the ocean in the background and some beaches. It's a very lovely backdrop to what is surely going to be an intense round of racing. And we have just began qualifying, and so these are just the very first laps we're seeing. Like a couple of prep laps here from our top guys. And now while I get the stream situated and a couple of links posted to make sure everything is visible, we'll just go on board with our championship leader Whiteout for a lap or two. I am back, and thank you for bearing with us. I was getting the link posted in a few places, one of which is to our Instagram at Grand Prestige League. So if you're watching here, make sure you like and subscribe here, and go ahead and give us a follow there as well on Instagram at Grand Prestige League. And so far it looks like each of these guys have probably got about one attempt in for their fast laps. We're on board right now with Nuko in his gold Toyota. And fastest lap so far is Whiteout, no surprise there, our championship leader, also putting in the fastest lap of the session so far. But it is still early, so these guys are just getting their tires up to temperature, getting used to the car at this weight level, as they are running extremely low fuel levels for this qualifying session. Whiteout putting in another lap that improves on his fastest lap. Time to beat now, a 1:25.6. We'll see Nuko putting in some personal best sectors, but they're not purple. So we'll see what he can do, where this lap will put him. So while we take a look here at the standings for WEC, like I said, we are in round 7 right now out of, I believe, 10. So there are 3 rounds left after this round, one of which being a sprint race for reduced points. So these are important rounds now. We're getting into the thick of things as far as the championship goes. And just to put the championship picture into perspective for our viewers here, the beginning of the season started out like a dream for Illusion here, who we're on board with, as he was picking up the wins. But then, of course, as the season progresses, Whiteout coming back and showing his dominance as he did last season, where he was on another level. And it seems to be the case in the last few races in a row. Whiteout has won by really good margins, where there really wasn't any challenge. He was in clean air the whole time, no complications whatsoever. So as the championship battle gets heated up here, we're going to hope that they can keep it close until the end. Right now in P1 is Whiteout sitting at 192 points, and P2 is Illusion at 170 points. So pretty close between those two. And then P3, of course, we have Nuco at 125 points. So a decent gap from P2 to P3. The real fight for the championship looking to be between Whiteout and Illusion at this stage. But further down the field, we have a lot of drivers who are very close in points. And so a lot of movement could be had depending on the finishing positions of this race further down in the field. Notably as well as Pixel and Kekwet being 1 point from each other in the standings. I believe Kekwet is actually missing from this round, so long as Pixel finishes the race, he will increase his gap there at P7. And I'm going to take a look at the constructor standings real quick. And in P1 we have EXO AMR at 249 points, and just behind them is Spectre Acura Racing at 239. So only a 10-point gap in the Constructors' Championship between P1 and P2. EXO AMR, of course, being the team here with Illusion and Ghosted, and Spectre Acura Racing being Whiteout and Kekwet. Now, Kekwet's absence is going to hurt their prospects there in the Constructors' Championship, but of course, that doesn't really make a difference in the drivers, which is, I'm sure, Whiteout's main goal here. So, as this session progresses, we're seeing the order get shuffled up a bit, and we got Nuco up into P2 now, D-Goats into P3, and Illusion in P4 as it stands currently. We got Jesse in the chat. Shout out to Jesse. Of course, rooting for Team EXO, hoping to retain that P1 in the Constructors' Championship. And of those EXO AMR drivers, Illusion in particular going to need a win today. D-Goats looking a little laggy per usual. Fritz, welcome to the chat, rooting for D-Goats and Ghosted. D-Goats who are on board with now, looking a bit laggy, but as fast as always. It's hard to tell exactly what kind of line he's doing with the lag, but nonetheless, we know that it's a good line because he's always one of the fastest guys in the lobby. D-Goats and Boita in the Porsches, holding P4 and P5 at the moment, and Boita, in D-Goats' absence last round, Boita had an excellent round. I believe finishing P4 was an excellent drive. He was my driver of the day last round. So we'll see what he can do this round and see if he can keep that performance up. As he's currently holding a penalty, he will have to serve on this lap, so Hopefully for him, this is just a preparation lap, and it won't affect his times. Now these drivers, when they are on their hot lap, you can tell because they are going to be using their overtake as much as they possibly can for the entire lap. And you can see the overtake gauge on the bottom right of the screen. And he has now just begun using his overtake, so he is preparing to start. And around this track, I've found that you can do about 2 hot laps in a row. You have enough overtake to complete 1 full lap and another. Whereas usually, you have enough time for and enough overtake for 1 preparation lap and then 1 hot lap, and then you have to go to the pits so that you can restock your overtake. For those new to racing, overtake is, you can think of it like nitrous. It's a boost. Different series and different cars have some form or another of boost, and they all go by different names. In F1 they use the rear wing flap called DRS, other series of ERS, some call it boost, some call it overtake. Here we call it overtake, not to be confused with passing a car. So if I refer to overtake, I'll probably be referring to that gauge in the bottom right. And that gauge as well is going to be important to take note of throughout the race, as these drivers only have that much for the whole race, all 46 laps. And so they're going to want to manage it and use it wisely throughout this race. It may come down to a couple of positions may be decided by who managed their overtake better. A 1:26.6, that's a good lap there for Boita. Enough to hold his position, but not enough to improve positionally. Then again, when you're in P5 right behind B-Goats and the usual top 3, that's a good performance. Just behind him we have Ghosted, who is on hot lap himself. We'll go on board and just see what he's up to. As we're about to cross the finish line, we'll see where he ends up. And that was a personal best. He improved by a half a tenth, but does not improve upon his position. 2 cars here on a cool lap and an out lap. Looking further down the grid too, we'll just kind of introduce some of these guys here in these teams. We got Pixel, who we're on board with right now in the high caliber car, of which they are running a special livery here today, running the white. Usually base color is that metallic blue with the yellow, but today we are running white. Let's just take a look. And a good lap from Pixel as well as he crosses the line as well. Same story as with Ghosted. He marginally improves on his time, but not enough to improve his position. We have Ghosted in the chat as well, mentioning that the track is very difficult, to which I concur. It is a tough track. The walls come very, very close if you want to maximize this track here. And so here is your qualifying result. Pole position for Whiteout. And just behind him, 3/10 behind, is the margin to pole. We got Illusion in P2. and Nuco just behind him. Fritz in the chat asking about the one stop is if it's expected. Here, the wear can be pretty severe on the front left, and so I'm suspecting that most people will be trying to do a two-stop here, but a one-stop should be possible if they use all of their mediums. But if they do a two-stop, then their medium stint will be short. From my calculations at least, and the strategy that I ran last week in my race is kind of how I see the race going. But here, of course, these guys are pretty good on their strategies as well. They usually end up doing similar strats, roughly similar pit windows, and the race distance being a bit longer in this class too kind of switches up things, makes the one stop a little harder to do. But I believe possible if you keep it really careful and take care of those mediums. And so while these guys are getting ready to start their race, switching over to race spec for their cars, they're setting up their cars and stuff, I will be posting the pole position graphic to our Instagram. Once again, that is at Grand Prestige League. So if you're watching here, feel free to go and give that a follow on Instagram. And don't forget to like and subscribe right here, as we'll be racing here every week until the end of the season. And the chat is asking about refueling now, and refueling is not expected. It is allowed, but generally these guys carry enough fuel on board to complete the whole race. And these guys are giving R's to indicate they are ready as I'm posting this pole position graphic. Hopefully I don't miss the start of the race here. I'm trying to pay attention to both. Okay, and the race is now beginning. I've said Whiteout starting on pole position with Illusion just behind him. Now these two in the front two here are the championship battle. Track position is going to be crucial here, as overtaking is very difficult on this track, save for a couple of key locations. Lights are on, and the lights are out, and this race has begun. Good reaction time, it seems, from most of the grid. Whiteout in P1. Oh, someone's off. Someone went off immediately. I didn't see who it is. But it looks like positions are stable in the field as these guys are wing to wing. Pixel looking to make a move. There's some very intense opening laps here, especially between the two Porsche teammates, as we got a couple of laggy cars, and it's very difficult to judge how much space you actually have to give the car when they are lagging like that. The Brazilian taking all of the track that he possibly can to keep his teammate behind him. Now these two in the Porsches are going to want to sort out pretty quickly who among them they think is going to have the race pace advantage on the first stint, and they're going to want to let that car go ahead in front. And but both of these cars having good pace, especially as we saw last round, Boita capable of very good result. Now looking ahead, we got pretty steady gaps here between P1, P2, P3 being the same as the start of the race. It is Whiteout, Illusion, and Nuco, followed by Boita and D-Goats, the teammates fighting each other. D-Goats catching a little bit of dirt there, using every little bit of track that he possibly can. Something happened to Pixel as On the opening lap, we saw him trying to make a move on Ghosted, and now he is fall back behind his teammate Ed Breda, who's taking the position from him. So maybe he pushed a little too hard on the opening lap, perhaps. Now, up to P1, P2, P3, taking a look at their tire compounds. All three of the top runners here are on the soft tire, so there is no compound difference between the top few guys. D-Goat's now getting ahead of his teammate on the straight. A very efficient place to do it, but it looks like D-Goat's touched the wall there. Perhaps it was, perhaps I was deceived by the lag, because he now has a pretty good gap between him and his teammate now, so I think that him touching the wall didn't actually happen on his screen. But Boita being put under massive pressure on the straight, the worst place for him to have cars this close to him, as Ghosted making a move, and now Boita touching the wall, it looks like. As it... Alright. Okay, I know for a fact that didn't actually happen in the race. What we see here on our screen and what they see on their screen is going to be slightly different, and that is a good indication of that, because Boita just took flight and then managed to have good traction around the outside of that corner. But he did lose a couple of positions here, as despite the lag, it did look like he did go a little wide, and it wasn't a great corner for him. He had lost out. On this track, I have seen some weird glitches where people could drive over cones or little markers on the track and just get insane amounts of air, but it only appears that way from my perspective, because on their screen there was no cone there. They didn't hit it. So yeah, what we're seeing on our screen here is an estimation of their track position in real time, but is not necessarily perfectly accurate, which can lead to some very odd incidents and close wheel-to-wheel battling these cars here. And now Boita putting Breda under pressure. We got a Porsche versus a high caliber, and Porsche just managing to get ahead before turn 2 there is a crucial, one of the few places that you can do a clean overtake is turn 2 there. Ed Breda on the soft tire, Pixel and Flaring Aces on the medium tire. They seem to be, I'm going to double check real quick, but they seem to be the only two drivers on the medium compound. They are the only two on the medium compound, and they are the two last position drivers. So the medium tire definitely very slow compared to the soft around this track. In particular, if you're on that medium tire, you might hope that you'd be a little farther up the grid, because then you can take some of the soft tire advantage out of other cars that are behind you. But if you're all the way in the back, being on the medium tire is not good, because there's nothing. You're on the back foot already being on the medium, and so if all these cars are in clean air, there's nothing that takes away their advantage on the soft. So average lap time difference between the medium and the soft that I've seen can be around a second per lap. And around a track like this, it can be quite substantial. Confidence and traction is so important for solid lap times, lap after lap. Okay, and now P2 Exo Illusion here. You got about a 2.5 second gap in front and behind. Very steady gaps in the top three here. Not what Illusion would want though, as it's a good position in general, but of course when the only man on track he's really chasing and fighting with here is the man in front of him, 2 seconds in front of him in first place, it's not great. And the tire wear is identical between these top two thus far, and these guys' tires are probably just now getting into the optimal operating temperature window, where the grip is going to be at its maximum for these guys. I found easing the tires into their temperature window is the best way to approach it here. You don't want to overcook those tires here, because once the wear starts to increase, it increases pretty dramatically. The last thing you want on this track is like a snap oversteer on the exit. And so as it's the beginning stages of the wear is still looking really similar across the entire field. We got Boita in the chat. Porsche for the Lin, brother of the other Boita we see on track. A very fast driver in his own right. And William Boita in the chat pointing out that tire drag is high and that will likely be a 2-stop for most. I'd have to agree with that. So we're on lap 6 out of 46, and you can see that front left already starting to take some punishment. Looking down the field, going to see if we got any cars that are close to each other. Not too close. So these guys just putting in some fast laps, as we see Flaring Ace is using a bit of his overtake, trying to claw his way back up to the group. The car he is chasing is Pixel in the high caliber. Boita in the chat pointing out that time loss once the tire wear is high is a big factor here, and that is definitely the case. We'll see who is willing to take their tires into the drop-off phases and who's trying to get rid of them as quickly as possible. And now, for those of you that are familiar with Gran Turismo's lobby settings and the tire wear settings, we are running ×4 tire wear in this race today. Just for context as to the rate of wear that these guys will be experiencing today. As we're taking a look at Nuko here in his Toyota, and still within range we got D-Goats just behind, staying within 2 seconds of him, sticking with the pack. A very good effort from D-Goats. D-Goats having used just a tiny bit of his overtake to stay with Nuko. Look at Ghosted's progress as well here in P5, holding P5 with decent gaps in front and back just as well. Looks like a bit of a slide as his rear tires touch the concrete, but quick exit nonetheless. Yeah, such a difficult track, such a very deceptive track as well. as a lot of these corners, they have little sequences, and as one begins to open up, it gives you the look like, okay, now's the time to push, but as soon as your instinct tells you to push, the track tightens up again on you. It's extremely difficult to judge unless you've done a lot of laps and gained a lot of experience here. Extremely difficult track to manage, even just on your own, let alone in traffic. There's only a few really good overtaking opportunities on this track if you're battling. Luckily for most of these guys, we haven't seen too much wheel-to-wheel action at this stage of the race yet, as I'm sure they will be kind of happy for, because it is a stressful track to be wheel-to-wheel, especially through the sequence between turn 6 through turn 9, turn 6 being that super sharp hairpin, a good overtaking opportunity, but right after that overtaking opportunity, where cars would often be side by side coming out of that exit, then the track narrows up and there's really only enough room for one car at a time in the following corners. So it's a very difficult track. If we see any battles through there, we're going to want to keep an eye on turn 7, 8, and 9, as if two cars go through there at the same time, one of them's going to want to back out. And D Goats has a really good race pace at the moment, and it appears as though Nuco's tires are wearing pretty severely. Same with all these top three guys, so actually it looks like D Goats might just be doing a good job managing those tires. Usually based on Nuco's aggressive driving style, usually his wear is marginally more than the other two top guys, but here all the top three guys have extremely similar tire wear, but D Goats having noticeably better tire wear at the same time as he is. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say he goes off, but it was just the lag once again deceiving me. Nuco using every little inch of the track that he has available to him, kicking up a tiny bit of dust on the exit. Nuco probably staring at D-Goat in his mirrors, concerned about that, losing a bit of pace to the front guy, as Illusion's gap to Nuco is now up to just about 6 seconds, and the gap ahead of him increasing as well to about 3.5 seconds to the leader, Whiteout. And so this is the guy on a mission. So we got Fritz in the chat asking about how often these guys go off track, and these guys are incredible racers. They are the top class for a reason. It is very rare to see a mistake, especially if they're on their own, just doing laps like this where the gaps are pretty decent between everyone. You rarely see a mistake where someone completely goes off the track. Usually the biggest mistake you will see, especially with these top few guys, is maybe a little bit of extra wheel spin in an exit or a little snap of oversteer, something that's easily corrected for these guys. The type of mistakes that'll lose them 2-3 tenths over the course of a whole lap. So, and these guys are absolutely super precise, top tier, barely make mistakes, even when they're. And I disconnect, of course. So, give me just a moment. I'll get back in the race. I'm sure we're not going to miss anything, though, in the meantime. Give me just a moment. All right, and we are back in the race. Taking a look now, pulling back up to display information. Yeah, Ben, just as I suspected, we didn't miss anything in the race itself, luckily. As you can probably tell, the servers here in Gran Turismo have a bit of work to do, as well, these guys' tires are severely worn now at this point. As you can see, we're on lap 13, and these guys' tires are struggling now. This is the part of the race now where the strategic variation is going to start opening up. We're going to start seeing some pit windows. I'm assuming within the next few laps, these guys are going to probably start shuffling into the pits, especially seeing as every single person on the grid, except for Pixel and Flaring Aces, are on the soft tire. Ghosted soft tire is extremely damaged at the moment. The two Porsches, both D-Goats and Boita, have pretty good tire wear compared to the rest of the field. Wait a minute. I'm missing D-Goats here. Maybe. Okay, I'm gonna exit spectate just to see if it says here that he left or got disconnected. Okay, well, we were gone at the same time, so it probably won't show us, but I'm assuming that D-Goats got disconnected from the race just at the same time as we did. Luckily for us, it doesn't cost us anything to disconnect from the race, but that's pretty devastating for D-Goats. His race, as every single finishing position is for points in this race, and he was in a good position regardless in P4, so that was a lot of points, and unfortunately a DNF is 0 points. And since we are now back into the stream, I'd like to welcome all the viewers that are now shuffling in here. We got 10 watching at the moment, so now is a good time before we start hitting these pit stops. Let us know what team or driver you guys are rooting for in the chat. Here's our display. Here's our race information now, so we can take a look at these tires, as they are now going to be struggling on these tires. The lap times are going to start increasing pretty dramatically from here. The top two guys opting to stay out on these old tires now. And, you know, these guys are definitely have to think on their feet strategically. The top two guys specifically, as their strategies are going to be entirely based on what the other guy is doing. Most of the other guys in the field probably have a set strategy that they're going to run regardless, but these top two guys are going to have to respond to each other. If one jumps in the pits, I'm very certain the other one's going to jump in to cover it off. So now it's just a game of chicken to see who pits first. Of course, the earlier you pit, you will then begin to... Okay, now we have D-Goats in the chat letting us know he has no idea what happened. The exact same thing actually happened to us. I disconnected while commentating, just as I disconnected from this race when I was racing here last week. I unfortunately disconnected and DNF'd myself. The lobby definitely having an issue, and D-Goats, you're normally have quite a bit of lag anyways, but it was more than normal today. And Illusion pulls the trigger and jumps in the pits first, and so now we will see potentially a lap's worth of undercut, and he jumps straight to the soft tire because him being out before whiteout means... Oh, never mind. It told me wrong on the screen. He actually gets on the medium tire, and he comes out of the pits right near his teammates. This is going to be crucial here. He's not going to want his teammate to cost him too much time here. especially given that this outlap is critical for Illusion's race, and Ghosted does get by. He lets Illusion past. This outlap is going to be critical for Illusion to go as fast as he can, because Whiteout is going to be going pretty slowly on those worn softs compared to these brand new mediums. Now, because the undercut is happening on a medium, the undercut is not going to be as severe as it would have been had he pitted for an extra set of softs. But nonetheless, Illusion is going to be on softs when the car is at its lightest on the final stint. So, a lot to watch for, a very interesting strategic race developing here. Of course, as I called, Whiteout jumping into the pits to cover off Illusion's charge. We will see where they end up if Illusion cut that gap down, and by how much. And here we got Illusion coming through the final tunnel. He is now on the main straight, but it looks like it didn't do quite enough, as Whiteout is already out of the pits with a big gap, roughly the same gap as what they went in with. And Whiteout coming out on the mediums as well, so these guys are covering each other off with the identical strategies here. Goats in the chat noticing the severity of his lag earlier in the race, and yeah, my guy, he was crazy. Like, I thought you crashed several times when you didn't crash. The lag was next level today, so hopefully either someone's Wi-Fi can get figured out, and hopefully Polyphony Digital as well can, you know, get a handle on these servers, because the servers, despite the lag, despite whatever anyone's internet connection is, the quality of the servers on this game are just not up to snuff for the level of competitiveness that a game like this requires. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's a typical problem that us Gran Turismo racers have to deal with, unfortunately. Yep, so a similar gap as we saw before the pit stop happened, about 6.5 seconds from the leader to P2, Illusion. And we got P3, Boita, now jumping into the pits to hand back Nuko his P3. And let's see what tire he jumps onto. Owen coming out just behind Ghosted now. Ghosted, who is pitted already as well, so he gains a position from pitting earlier. So the undercut, very real here. Especially when everyone is running the exact same compound, the undercut definitely useful here. And the big beneficiary of these pit stops, the early winner of the pit stop battle here, is Ghosted. As we watch Ghosted now just ease his medium tires up to temperature in that XO-AMR car. Very fast indeed, and we got big gaps here. The margin in front seems to be increasing a bit, just as the margin behind Illusion as well is increasing a bit. It seems as though Whiteout is doing a good job bringing his medium tire up to temperature, and now we have the two medium runners in the back of the field who are now pitting for their first set of soft tires. So now it is these two guys, Pixel and Flaring Aces. It is their time to shine now, as they have to pick up the pace to recover a lot of the time lost from that medium stint. So we're going to be seeing a lot of push laps now from Pixel and Flaring Aces. Beretta's on the brand new medium too, so we have a strategic sort of flip here between the two teammates on the high caliber, between Pixel and Beretta here. At first we had Beretta on the softs, Pixel on the mediums, and now we have Pixel on the softs and Beretta on the mediums. So now is a good chance to see exactly how big of a difference these tires have in them, as we got Pixel closing in on his teammate. Pixel on the overtake now too. He knows that these laps are pretty important. And is he within the slipstream on the main straight? This is a very long straight here, so if you're within the slipstream, you have a really good chance to get a position into turn 2. Here's turn 1 and here's turn 2. Just not quite close enough, but he is right there now. And so now he'll definitely be in the slipstream. Back on the overtake just a little bit. But if you're in the slipstream at this stage of the track, now we are going to get into the twisty part where that slipstream turns into dirty air and becomes detrimental. Right around here. Dirty air causing a very large loss of downforce. I'm not sure up to what percentage, but I would assume maybe up to 50% loss of downforce into some of these corners, which completely takes away your traction and confidence. You may have to lift where you wouldn't have otherwise had to lift, and having to manage your grip levels like that mid-corner can cost you quite a bit of time. But now here we're back on one of the back straights over the beautiful bridge with a excellent background, very scenic as his teammate lets him by. Now we got Pixel up into P6 as Beretta back into P7. Now trying to hold off Flaring Aces, who is also on the soft tire. Yeah, Flaring Aces in the slipstream on the straight. We're going to see if Beretta can hold him off, as this is going to help his teammate out, Pixel, by taking some pressure off of Pixel the longer he can hold up Flaring Aces on that medium tire. As for these two, for Pixel and Flaring Aces, this is kind of a situation that they would have hoped to be in when they were on the medium tire, is to be in front of someone who's faster than them behind on the soft tire and cost them all of their soft advantage, and there's a wreck. We have our first major incident of this race, and we got Beretta in the wall trying to hold off Flaring Aces on the soft tire. Beretta does have front wing damage and suspension damage on that front left, and the damage here in this class is permanent, so he will have to take an extra pit stop just to fix it. And unfortunately, this is probably the worst possible time that he could have needs to pit again, because he is on brand new mediums. And so this is definitely going to be a really awkward lap for him to try to work on the strategy from here. And the only required compound of tire for this race is the medium. And so now that he has done a couple of laps on the medium, he has fulfilled that requirement. So now I'm curious to see if Beretta's going to come back out on, we have Pixel in the pits as well. Coming back out on another set of softs. I wonder what happened there, if he had an accident or if he just didn't like his tires or what was happening there. But yeah, I was curious as to what compound Beretta would take, given that he has fulfilled his medium compound requirement. So now he can go on the soft tire for the rest of the race, but like I said, it's kind of an awkward window to be jumping back onto softs, because likely he's going to have to take another set of softs again. So basically just a whole extra pit stop. There's no real strategic advantage from timing of doing so. It was an interesting incident too. I wonder if there was contact made. It looked like there might have been some contact. We'll definitely have to let that be reviewed post-race by our stewards. I am the live race steward for today, so I call like red flags in the beginning of the race, but that was I couldn't call that from here, so we'll have to review that post-race with dedicated post-race stewards. But just before Pixel pitted too, I wonder if Pixel was still ahead of Flaring Aces when he pitted, or if Flaring Aces got ahead of him and then Pixel decided to pit. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but it was just very interesting timing to see Pixel back in the pits again, just as his teammate was. But nonetheless, penalty, no penalty, contact, no contact, Flaring Aces at this stage, big drift, does seem to be the beneficiary of whatever happened there. And extremely skilled of Flaring Aces, by the way, to hold on to that drift, as he was beyond 45 degrees, and in these cars that's extremely difficult to catch a snap that big. So very good on Flaring Aces. Now taking a look back up the field to monitor some of these gaps here. Hopefully I've not missed anything, and it doesn't appear so, as these gaps are pretty steady. From P1, P2, P3, very steady gaps. So the top three, similar amount of gaps, and then there's a big gap behind P3, Nuco, to P4, which is Ghosted. Ghosted, by the way, in a good position in his race right now. Doing all he can. So long as he keeps up this race pace, he will be in a great position to gather a big points haul for the Constructors' Championship. As it stands right now, Whiteout would be the big winner in the Drivers' Championship, increasing his lead in P1. The XO AMR would be the big winner in the Constructors' Championship, increasing their respective lead in P1. And so, a very good race for two different camps, depending on which championship you prioritize more. Either way, I'm sure we'll feel bittersweet for all of these top guys involved. Scenic Grand Valley. Such a beautiful background to watch these cars race on. The Super Formula 23. This is a fictional track that takes place based on a real highway in California, here in the United States. And our race leader, also from the United States, perhaps I believe from California as well. So this is a home race of sorts for Whiteout, and so he'll be happy to be leading his virtual home Grand Prix. Although, as you can see, this is a truly international championship, as we have flags from everywhere you can imagine. We got Illusion here from Norway, Nuco from France, Ghosted from the Netherlands, Boita from Brazil, Flaring Aces from England, Pixel from Sweden, Breda from the Netherlands. A truly worldwide championship we are running here, as we get a nice shot of the ocean in the background of Whiteout in P1. lap 26 out of 46, and these top few guys' tires now, they are on the medium compound, so it won't wear quite as severely, but it looks like the wear is kind of starting to settle in. The tires are probably in their optimal temperature window once again, and so this is where we're going to see the true pace of the medium tire at its best. And I'm very excited to see the last stint of this race too, as when these guys pit again, if they pit again, then I believe every single car on the grid will be on the soft tire to finish this race with the lightest car possible. And Whiteout, despite being 10 seconds in the lead, he is just very periodically using a tiny bit of overtake here and there just to keep his average race pace high. But he seems to be managing it well, as we're a little over halfway through the race distance, and he has over half of his overtake left. A similar amount of overtake and a similar amount of tire wear from Illusion here, but if we take a look at Nuco, his tire wear, especially on that front left, is noticeably more severe. Even on these mediums here, Andy has used a tiny bit more of that overtake to try to stay with it. But it looks like the gap ahead of him to Illusion is actually coming down a bit, so maybe that's why we're seeing some more severe wear. It looks like Nuco is pushing to catch up at this stage. Now, it's an interesting position to be in right now if you're Nuco, because you're going to want to close this gap up. And now's as good a time as any, but you don't necessarily want to be using all of your overtake, all of your good advantage, while you're on the most disadvantaged tire compound. But then again, you don't necessarily also want to wait too long to begin that push to close up. Because if you make a very dedicated push at the end of the race, that maybe by the time you close that gap, the tires will be overheated, you might have used all of your overtake. It's probably best to try to get into position now. But then again, as I said, he's using a lot of his advantage that he has at his disposal while he is still on the medium tire. We'll go on board here with Nuco here to see what he sees as the driver in the seat of this car, and we can actually get a good idea too of just how difficult this track is, just how quickly the turns come at you. As soon as you think you're done with one, you're going to straighten out, start focusing on your exit speeds. The next corner is already there. You have to be extremely deliberate about how you position the car to set up for these corners, on these in-between corners, especially when they're sequenced like that. Car position is so important. Just as he demonstrates right there, compromising the exit line of the first part so that he is optimally set up to take the second and third part of that corner at top speed, and he did it brilliantly there. We got Ed Breda in the pits once more. It looks like he has wing damage. So another mistake from Ed Breda. Perhaps made all on his own. Didn't see what happened there, but I don't see any other cars around him. When I checked on it, I saw a bit of front wing damage, and he's back on the soft tire once again. And now there's about a 50-second gap up to the next car, being his teammate Pixel up there in P7. So quite a gap, and it looks like his race is effectively over, but nonetheless, as I mentioned, every single finishing position is worth points today. So just so long as you just stay in the race, you know, even if your race hasn't gone well, now's a good time to just chill out, do some laps, keep it consistent, you know, Stay in your own lane, don't ruin anyone else's race on the way, but so long as you've crossed the line, you're going to get points today. And even in last place, the points that you will get for last place is going to be slightly higher due to the unfortunate DNFing of egos. So last place is now worth one more position than it would have been. If we're on board here, we might as well go on board with your race leader and see how he does this track. The V6 of this Honda-powered car right here, sounding very good indeed. And you can hear the tires working as he is pushing for sure. The tires, he is really on the limit of grip. His tires aren't necessarily spinning, but you can hear them just barely sliding around a tiny bit, like they are on the very, very limit of the maximum traction that they can possibly give Whiteout's car right now. Whoa, getting a little squirrely on the exit there in the final corners. A very crucial mistake, but he gets right back on the overtake and to nullify his mistake there. It doesn't seem to have made a difference at all, but a very good save nonetheless. As you could see, the amount of counter steer he had to put into the wheel to save that. I mean, he is really pushing. You would think he'd be comfortable with a 12-second lead right now, but he is pushing. You can hear it in the tires. You can see it in the wheel on the exits. He is slipping as these mediums are not very forgiving. His medium tire still looking like it has quite a bit of life left, but he is drifting out of each of these exits here. So even in their most optimal state, the medium tire not very grippy. So this is going to be the most difficult phase of the race for these guys. And what a beautiful track it is, as we get a little bit of everything. You get bridges and tunnels and tight chicanes and long straights, fast corners, slow corners, mountains, beaches, ocean, a little bit of everything. And we got some action here as P2, Illusion, and P3, Nuco are both in the pits. It looks like they're going to switch off their soft tire. And so now this is going to be the biggest possible undercut window that Illusion has. And the biggest opportunity he has right now is this lap. Because I can pretty much guarantee Whiteout, seeing that his competition is pitted, is going to jump into the pits immediately, as he is struggling with those medium tires, and Illusion is now on brand new softs. And he's going to be putting in some quality level laps here, I'm assuming. EXO teammate Ghosted now in the pits as well, probably switching to his final set of soft tires to finish the race on. And now we got Whiteout going into the final bridge and then final tunnel of this lap, and we're going to see if he decides to take a pit stop to cover off Illusion. As he does, of course. He does not want that gap to keep bleeding the way it inevitably would have had he remained on those mediums. Now we can see, even just after one lap on cold softs, how much of a difference he will have made and how big of a gap he will have taken out of that lead. And he comes rounding the final bit here as Whiteout's already back on track, of course. And now Whiteout, also being on the soft tire, still has a slight disadvantage as Illusion's tires are going to be slightly faster, given that he has just done one lap worth of warming up those tires, whereas Whiteout's still on brand new, super cold soft tires. And around this track, I would say it takes about at least a lap, maybe 2-3 laps, to warm up these tires to a place where they're comfortable, where you can really start pushing to the degree that you would expect, where the car is predictable. Okay, and now that the gap ahead has settled out a little bit, we can see that Illusion, just one lap of tire difference, has taken out about a second out of that gap, but it doesn't seem to be enough. Now the only thing you can hope for is a mistake from our leader, Whiteout. Whiteout, not known for making mistakes, is an off chance, but that is the best they can hope for at this stage. Whiteout understanding the mission, using a bit of his overtake here to keep the gap where it is. He does not want Illusion cutting into that gap, and now, at this point in the race, there is nothing strategically between them two. Now it is just a straight-up race to the end on the same compound of tire, and he's starting this out with an 11-second lead, so he's got to be feeling pretty comfortable right now where he's at. But when you got someone as fast as Illusion behind you, even an 11-second gap isn't necessarily comfortable. As you can see, he's still pushing. You still got to maintain an extremely high race pace to keep this gap where it is. And speaking of the gaps, we got a gap that is closing behind Illusion. Muko seems to be on a charge. The gap came down to about 3 seconds before they went to the pits. Now it's just under 2.5. So Muko getting a purple sector here as well, who's already holding the fastest lap on the track. He is the man with the most pace on the track right now. Look back too, just to check on Boita here. Brazilian in the Porsche, holding P4 in place of his teammate, doing an excellent job in his absence. And then 15 seconds behind P4, we have P5, which is Flaring Aces, who is having an incredible comeback race at the moment, as he started in very last place on the slowest tire, and you can see that strategy working out well for him as he has clawed back many of the positions that he didn't have in the beginning. And Ghosted seems to be chasing him down behind, but is carrying a penalty that he will have to serve on this lap. So that will hurt his chances of fighting back for that P5. Ghosted at one point in the race at P4 with an excellent position for the team. P6, still very solid position, but doesn't seem satisfied with it as he wants P5. He's chasing down Flaring Aces in that Toyota. about to serve the penalty here. It is a half a second penalty where it slows you down, but on a straight like this, of course, it will cost you more than a half a second, as you have to get back up to speed. A bit of a drift on the exit of the chicane there, but he manages to hold on to it. Very impressive from Ghosted, of course, and he is back on that overtake. So he wants to close this gap back up again, and the gap is under 2 seconds, so it looks like he will have a good chance to take that back. Just checking on the gap here up top. It is a 3-second gap between Nuco and Illusion, so I think Illusion got the memo, stepped up his pace a little bit, increased the gap behind as Nuco was really putting on the charge to close that gap in. Oh, he definitely got the messages, as Illusion is now the man with the fastest lap of the race. Whiteout still holding the most overtake out of all of these top 3 guys, all 3 using a decent amount periodically throughout the entirety of this race distance. So it doesn't look like any of them are saving their overtakes specifically to do a dedicated fast lap push. Oftentimes you will see that. Sometimes I believe I've seen Whiteout and Illusion do it at some point during the season where they deliberately saved enough overtake to use as much of it as possible on a fast lap attempt to take that extra point in the championship. As if you finish this race with the fastest lap, that is 1 point in the championship. Whiteout just got a purple sector for sector 2 there, so it looks like, oh yeah, Whiteout now with the fastest lap of the race. And it looks like he might increase that margin yet. Taking a look as he rounds the final corner of the race, taking a look at the start-finish line here. Crosses the line and improves his fastest lap time to a 26.0, which is an incredible race time. It's absolutely, that is actually a crazy, crazy lap time. Okay, taking a look back at this battle here for P5. Ghosted closing the gap here now under a half a second, or about a half a second. And so by the time he hits this main straight after the chicane here, I'm guessing will be in slipstream range. But Flaring Aces has used all of his overtake. Maybe just 1 push left of overtake, not enough to hold it. Whereas Ghosted, using his overtake right now, has a quarter of a tank left. And that's going to be a huge advantage for him in getting this position back. And he is definitely in the slipstream. Is he close enough to make a move into turn 2, though? I don't think so. He may have to just sit tight for 1 more lap before he can make a clean attempt at it. And as I've mentioned, there's not too many places you realistically want to try to make a move on this track. Turn 2 being the very best. Turn 6, though, this hairpin is another opportunity for an overtake, but just not close enough to even make a move. And so the best he can do right now is to just stay close enough that he is in a good slipstream by the time that start-finish straight comes back. Now he's going to be affected by the dirty air, as he lost about 3/10 in the dirty air just from those last 2 corners. Gained it right back as soon as the track straightened out a bit. Corner happens, he loses another 2/10. The straight comes back and he gains it back. So the dirty air is very severe here on a handful of these corners. And it does look like exit was important there, and it looks like he got a good enough exit to where the overtake will put him in range. But it'll be close, so we'll see. Let's go on board and see how close it is. He should be able to at least make a move into turn 2 here with this. Yep, definitely. taking the outside line. And it's a clean overtake as he just slots his car right in front of Flaring Aces before the braking zone and gets it done without any response. Flaring Ace is still in a position to fight back, though. Does not want to take that sitting down. He had a look into turn 6 there, but ultimately too far away to make a proper lunge. And now he'll hope to just, as I said before, stay within range so that when that start-finish straight comes back, he didn't lose too much time in the dirty air. Might be able to make a pass back on the straight, but once again ghosted, now having a pretty big overtake advantage and being in front. He's going to be using that periodically just to increase the gap behind. Usually on the exits of corners. Oh, and a big slide there. Positioning the car for the turn back in the other direction, but he holds on. And these guys are putting their cars really on a knife's edge here, as they are pushing the very limits of what these cars can handle. Duco looking to be hunting down Illusion here, and the gap again back below 3 seconds. Whiteout looks like he has used all of his overtake that he had available to him for that fastest lap push that he did. So, and he does have a pretty comfortable gap, so he's not going to need any of that overtake. So he used it wisely to get that fastest lap, and I think he's satisfied with his efforts on that. He won't need to do much more now, but just keep it on the track, as there's only 5 laps left of this race. It appears though as Illusion's gas is now in the red a little bit, but he will have enough to finish this race. I'm not too worried about the fuel level there, but just to note that Illusion's fuel levels are now in the red, and a bit of a slip there on the exit, but he holds on very nicely. Didn't seem to lose any time. In fact, it was a good exit. Maybe a slip from Nuco as well, because Nuco lost about a whole second there, just as Illusion slipped. All of these guys in the top 3 seem to have used all of their overtake up, virtually all of it, and so there's not going to be any left to battle if any of these guys close in on each other. Looking back here at P5, the gap is now just steadily increasing little by little to Flaring Aces there in P6. The guy behind him, Pixel in P7, and Bretta in P8 in those high caliber cars. Pixel's high caliber car here looking very grippy. We're seeing a lot of these guys slipping and sliding around on the exits. Pixel looking planted. Whiteout once again doing an amazing job of managing this race from P1, not letting the pressure get to him, not letting the circumstance get to him, understanding what the mission is there in P1 in the driver standings. As he crosses the finish line once again, that brings lap 43 out of 46, and there are 3 laps remaining in this race. His tires are in great shape. Everything seems to be going right for Whiteout. Past 3 races in a row, really, every single little thing has gone Whiteout's way, as he has had no complications. He hasn't had to deal with any traffic. He hasn't had to deal with really anything. Just being a fast guy up there in P1 is all he's needed to do. As he's increasing this gap now up to 18 seconds. Illusion not seeming to try his hardest to eat into the gap ahead now, just managing the gap behind. As he understands there's no way you can really take out 20 seconds in 3 laps, and so managing this gap behind, he's doing a great job. As the gap behind, even since Nuko's mistakes that cost him a second, the gap has increased another second since then. So Illusion with great pace at the moment. To me, he seems to be the fastest man on the track at the moment. We'll just take a look up and down the field at all these cars. Kind of just monitor what they're up to here as this race is progressing. The final laps winding down, the gap's pretty decent between all of these guys. It looks like a penalty behind for Pixel there, but of course the gap behind his teammate is about a minute, so a 1 second penalty there not going to hurt him too much. And he is now being shown the blue flags for Whiteout, I believe. Whiteout, yeah. We got CBD in the chat. A very fast driver in his own right as well. And so for Pixel to have received a 1 second penalty there, usually a track limit penalty is just a half a second. A more severe track limit penalty is a 1 second. I'm not exactly sure where he would have picked that up exactly. So he must have made a mistake. Slip of some kind where he went off track, re-entered the track a bit too quickly or something. Pixel still being shown the blue flags for Whiteout, but in this game it shows you the blue flags pretty early, and so the gap's still big enough between Pixel and Whiteout where he doesn't necessarily need to get out of the way quite yet. He can still just keep going at his own pace at the moment. As we got 2 laps left in this race, Whiteout holding P1, closing in on some lap traffic here. Whiteout on lap 45, the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix. Using just the very last little bit of overtake he had at his disposal right there. He's now completely out of overtake. His tires probably beginning to enter a drop-off phase, but still in perfectly good condition to finish this race at full push. And Pixel just getting out of the way there. Whiteout trying to take advantage of the slipstream from Pixel every little moment he had to use it. And so we are now here on the final lap with Whiteout, our race leader. He started on pole position. He led every single lap of this race. He made it look easy once again for the 3rd, maybe 4th race in a row. And this being California race here, this is his home Grand Prix. Much like Charles Leclerc in Monaco earlier today, we have Whiteout winning his home Grand Prix virtual, albeit a special moment nonetheless. Whiteout, being the selfish guy he is, not even letting anyone else get a single fastest lap point. He wants every single point that is available to him, and he is going to get every single point available to him unless someone can get fastest lap on the very last lap of the race, and it doesn't appear anyone has the resources available to them to make it happen. Whiteout, knowing what he's done, weaving his way across the finish line, and he is the winner of this race. Congratulations to Whiteout. And now we got Illusion here for XOAMR in P2. Coming through the final tunnel of the final lap. A great effort from Illusion. Displaying a huge amount of poise and huge race pace once again. Week in and week out, these top three guys are always formidable. On another level to the rest of the field, as always. And Boita in an excellent P4. Once again, 2 weeks in a row, P4. D-Goats, an unfortunate DNF for D-Goats. We can only wonder what if with D-Goats, but we can assume that likely a P4 was on the cards for D-Goats, as he had super solid pace, probably that of P4. But Boita, being an excellent teammate, holding it down in his place 2 weeks in a row, taking P4. And then we got Ghosted in the other XOAMR car, bringing it home in P5 for an excellent result for Team XOAMR in the Constructors' Championship. That would be the final finisher of the top laps there, Flaring Aces, who I would say Flaring Ace is probably my driver of the day, to be honest. Starting in the back on the medium tire, came all the way back. He went up into P maybe 4 or 5 there for a while. Ghosted ultimately getting the best of him there in P5. But what a race it was. And so now just taking a look at the race results here. Your winner, of course, the Drivers' Championship leader is Whiteout for Spectre Acura Racing, as well as the fastest lap of the race with a 1:26.0, an absolutely incredible fast lap there. P2 is Exo Illusion. P3 is Nuco, and that is your podium. The rest of the finishers being Boita, Ghosted, Flaring Aces, Pixel, Bretta, and unfortunately a DNF for D-Goats. And next week, you will definitely want to join us next week, as it is going to be a unique race, the only sprint race on the entire calendar, where we're going to do a reverse grid. And so that's going to be interesting, to say the very least. And it's based on the Driver Championship standings. So what that means is Whiteout will be starting in last place in Daytona, the Daytona road course, for tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but next week. So you'll definitely want to be here in the next couple of weeks, as we're going to be there for a reverse grid sprint race at Daytona, another American track. It's going to be weird. We're trying it out. It's going to be different. And so I'm going to be posting the winner graphic to our Instagram at Grand Prestige League, so feel free to go give that a follow and check us out there. If you're watching here on YouTube, make sure you give us a like and subscribe, as we'll be back here every single week on Sundays with Super Formula Racing. And this has been round 7 of GPL. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.